All right, Paul, I think we're live. Welcome. Thank you for being here with me today, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. So, Paul, you run Paul Green's MSP Marketing. Is that? And people can go to paulgreensmspmarketing.com. It just rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, we'd like to have bought MSPmarketing.com, but someone beat us to it. So I had the brainy idea of putting my name at the beginning of it. I've got a nice simple name, exactly like yours, Steve. But yeah, it's kind of when you start putting in the S, and it all gets a bit difficult. But people get there eventually.
Yes. Well, thankfully, it's easily Googleable. This is why Google shouldn't be a verb.
Let's be honest. Who says, "Oh, I really must Bing that"?
That's true. That's true.
Doesn't happen.
Every now and then, I like to Yahoo things.
Well, I remember back in the day, Alta Vistaing things.
Yeah. Here we go. Now we're showing our age.
Here we are.
So, all right. So let's talk about your program here. So let me tell you how I heard about you. I heard about you because one of the members of RocketMSP, that's I've got some peer groups that I run, RocketMSP. One of my members signed up for Paul Green's MSPmarketing.com, and he was telling us about it at one of our weekly meetings. And we checked it out. I looked at the site, and I'm like, hey, this actually looks pretty good, and I'm gonna compare you to another company, as long as I can remember that company's name. TechNibble.
Yes, I've heard of TechNibble. Yes.
So, and this isn't to say anything bad about you. I think it's to show that TechNibble is actually. I think they've come a long way, because TechNibble used to be all about break fix, and over the years they've added some MSP resources. So I feel like your program is similar to TechNibble. I'm sure yours has more bits and features to it compared to what they've got. But the price also reflects that. But when I say the price, I don't want people to think that this is some astronomical thing. It's it's in the low 100s. I mean, it's really not bad. So $125 or something like that.
129, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the thinking behind it. We have I think it's about 260, 270 members. And what we do is it's called the MSP Marketing Edge. That's the actual product name. And we supply content to those 260 MSPs every single month. They get some monthly stuff, and they get some new stuff every single week. Kind of similar to how TechNibble does it. And the reason that it works for us as a business, because it's at $129, or in the UK it's £99, which is the equivalent price, is because we've got so many members. So there's it works for us because there's lots of cash coming in, and we can then put together an enormous amount of marketing content and sell it to an MSP for just $129. Now, the thing that makes the real difference is we only sell it to one MSP per area.
Yeah.
So we operate on a locked area basis. The thing is, Steve, it just wouldn't work. If I sold it to two MSPs in direct competition with each other, then neither of them would want to use it, or they'd be coming up against each other, they'd be clashing. So we have a very good system which is on the website, where you can self-service and go and check and see if your area is available. And we've done it in the States based around
counties.
your counties. That's right. So you go in, you put your zip code in, and it tells you if your county is available. But that's the only reason that it works, is you're guaranteed not to be using these marketing materials against your direct competitors in your area.
Yeah. So I've got to say, it's genius the way you do it. And the reason I say it like that is because not only does it look like it's got great content, but it also, because of the county thing, all of the other MSPs in these peer groups are looking, and I think you got one or two other signups, because everyone's like, oh man, the FOMO is strong with this one. Because they're like, I want my county. I don't want to miss out on my county, and I get that. Now, what about MSPs that serve multiple areas? Can they purchase multiple counties?
They can, and we have probably about 10% of our clients have bought two areas. That is the exception rather than the rule. I mean, the reality is any MSP could win any client from anywhere in the world right now.
Sure.
And in fact, the lockdown was amazing for showing people that, hey, this stuff really can be done remotely. I really don't need a physical human being to come into my office. So I think that's why lockdown has been really good for many MSPs. Not all, but for many of them. So we do have some that buy multiple areas. What I say to most people is, look, just get your area, focus on your geographical area. We have a few basic rules in place, but MSPs are so friendly and so good at working together. We have on average one incident a year where two MSPs are kind of butting heads, and they're both trying to use the materials perhaps just slightly out of their area, or there's a clash or whatsoever, and I get the three of us on a Zoom call and we sort it out, and that's happened every year for the last 3 years. I don't think we've had our 2021 yet, so we're due that at some point in the next few months. But the reason that we did the locked areas, I read a book years ago, and it's a book I highly recommend to all of your audience. It's quite a heavy book. It's a book that combines marketing and psychology and puts the two together. And it's a book called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. Now, he is a genius. He's a professor of psychology who's based in New York, and all he focuses on is the psychology of marketing. And in fact, this book, he must have written this in around about 1984, and he coined several phrases which you hear people throw around today, such as social proof. So Robert Cialdini actually came up with the concept of social proof, which is that most people are driven at a deep psychological level to do what most other people are doing. In his book Influence, he wrote about 6 weapons of influence, and one of them is scarcity. Now, you mentioned FOMO there, fear of missing out, and FOMO is the modern interpretation of scarcity. If you've got something that's available and there's only one of it available, it forces you to make a decision: do I want this or don't I want this? And the example, and I can't remember if this is from Influence or one of his other books that he or his PhD students have written, but they give the example of Easter Island back in the day. And we all know now that Easter Island is the place with all the statues, but there's no indigenous human population there. And the indigenous tribes literally sort of wiped themselves out by overusing what was once abundant resources, because as the tribes grew and the tribes started sort of battling against each other, there became a war of scarcity. So as there was less food, they started to consume more of it. As there was less natural resources, they consumed more of it. The Easter Island statues, some of them are enormous, and they apparently go down underground as far as they go up above ground. And those were some of the last ones made. So they were making these statues at the same time that the food was running out, and all the other natural resources were running out, and they didn't have the technology, the boat technology, to get to other islands to get more resources. And so those those tribes kind of died out on Easter Island, and that was driven by scarcity. And it was a desire to show off to the other side, and there's only a finite amount of it left. We've got to get it. Now, what's interesting is MSPs can leverage this exact scarcity as well. So you don't really have a natural scarcity in the business. In that software is there is no scarcity on software. There's as much software as you want, but you have scarcity on hardware. And in fact, didn't we see during the lockdown several months ago that laptops and webcams? I'm looking at you on a webcam, which cost me. It's the Logitech C920, which
it's normally a $60 webcam.
It was a $60 webcam, but how much do you think I paid for it in the middle of lockdown?
$250.
Exactly that, $250, and I was grateful to Amazon for actually giving me that webcam and overcharging me for it. But the scarcity of it was, I hadn't got an HD webcam, I needed an HD webcam, so I was quite happy to go and pay for it. And that scarcity drove me to pay, 3-4 times the amount of its normal retail price. So MSPs have scarcity in some of the hardware. The real scarcity for an MSP is project time and human time. Mm-hmm. And what I say to all of my clients, and to especially as we get to this kind of time of the year where Christmas is coming up and people are starting to think about projects and what can we get done in holidays and going back to the office and all this kind of stuff, you've got to leverage the scarcity. And you've got to say, look, what we're doing here, this is a 2-day project. We only have 2 days available in this week, or this week. So if you want that project, you need to make a commitment to it now. So even MSPs with an abundance of everything available can actually leverage scarcity as a way to psychologically influence people.
Very good. I like that. All right, so obviously you like to use psychology with your marketing, or at least with the marketing of your marketing company. Wow, that's like marketingception, right? So do you also have a little bit of psychology in the marketing materials that you make for the MSP?
Yes, it's completely baked in. You know, I've been a business owner for 15 years and pretty much been studying marketing and psychology for those 15 years. And it is physically impossible for me to create marketing materials for anybody without baking psychology in there. You know, the basic principles that we use in the marketing edge and with our own marketing as well is we kind of do a 3-step thing. And the 3-step thing is, number one, we build audiences. So those audiences could be on Facebook, they're definitely on LinkedIn, and there's your email list. And, you know, personally, I have a podcast, the same as you, it's not as good as yours, but it's another audience. So you build multiple audiences, and then you build a relationship with those audiences. And the relationship is built through putting content on LinkedIn, putting content on your social media, sending out emails, posting newsletters, all of that, all of that kind of stuff. So you're touch pointing people in lots and lots of different ways. And what that does is that builds up a relationship. They feel as if they know you. Now, this is an important psychological principle because we are still driven, Steve, and you'll read this if you ever get around to reading Influence by Robert Cialdini. We're still driven right here in the back of our skull by the same basic programming that was driving us when we lived in caves. And, you know, back when we lived in caves, scarcity was a genuine thing because there wasn't an abundance of food. And today we have an abundance of food, but back, 100,000 years ago, we didn't. Social proof, the need, it's not a want, it's a need. We have to act like other people act because back in caveman times, if we didn't act that way, we were thrown out the cave. And what happened if you got thrown out the cave 100,000 years ago? Well, you didn't wake up in the morning because you were a saber-toothed tiger's lunch or something like that. So you look at why we're trying to build audiences of people to listen to us and why we're trying to build a relationship with them, because we want to come across, and my MSP clients want to come across as safe. You have to remember something about the average buyer. So the average business owner or manager who is looking to switch MSP or is looking to pick their first MSP, they don't know what you know about technology. You know, I'm not a tech. I'm a former radio presenter and journalist and, I say, business owner for 15 years, a marketing guy, but I'm not a tech. Even I know slightly more than the average business owner or business manager, just because of the power of osmosis, because I talk to MSPs every day, all day. And but the people that are buying from you, they don't know stuff. They don't know all the cool vendors out there. They don't know all the cool services. Dark web monitoring doesn't mean anything to them. The cloud is a bit of a what is the cloud? If you ask them to define the cloud in a short sentence, they couldn't actually define what it is. It's just that's where stuff works on your phone, isn't it? They don't really get it. So because they don't get it, that's why cognitively they cannot make logical decisions about whether or not an MSP is good or not. Now, this is completely the opposite to if you're selling to, let's say, an internal IT manager. So if you're trying to sell to an internal IT guy, he or she will know at cognitive levels whether or not you're good based on your knowledge, your understanding, your accreditations, your qualifications, and that's a completely different kind of sell. For the vast majority of MSPs who don't want internal IT support managers, they want to sell to business owners and managers. For those people, you've got to remember they don't know. So when they can't make a cognitive decision, it's actually the decision making is actually dropping down to here, and they are making emotional decisions. So let's just look at that. B2B decision makers of people with big companies, and we're talking, right up to, your sort of your major size companies of people, divisions and major companies with big CEOs and 3,000 staff. They are making the decision on which MSP to pick or which not to pick based on their emotional reactions to them. Or put another way, do they like you or do they not like you? And this is an important marketing concept to understand, because it's why we need to build audiences and build a relationship with those audiences and entertain them and educate them, because it's the process of getting to like people. You and I can do that face to face in a room, but what we've got to do in our marketing is we've got to do that with 1,000 people every single day or every single week simultaneously, and this is called one-to-many marketing. And this is what LinkedIn is great at. This is what emailing is great at. This is what sending printed newsletters is great at, because it just makes it easy for you to do these things on that scale. So when someone feels as though they know you, and they like you, even if it's just a tiny amount of knowledge about you and a tiny emotional reaction that, yeah, I quite like these guys, you are 10 times more likely to win the sale than if you just come across someone cold. If they Google someone and they Google IT support their town, they come across you, that's a cold start to a relationship. And this kind of approach is very much a long-term approach. It's not going to produce results today, tomorrow. You have to use your Google ads and other sort of early stage things to try and find people at that exact moment. But if you can gather together several hundred people into your email list, a couple of thousand connections on your LinkedIn, and build a relationship with them, one day some of those people are going to wake up and they are going to be unhappy with their current MSP. And in fact, we're seeing this fall, and as things carry on, that people are starting to take action now on the unhappiness that they had with their MSP back from when the lockdown happened. Lots of people weren't treated very well. They've been unhappy. They've decided to leave their MSP. They just haven't taken action on it yet. And what we're going to see over the next 12, 15, 18 months is we're going to see a big shift of clients, and it's going to be driven by that unhappiness. And they will pick their new MSP based on their emotional reaction to it. So that's talking about, do we bake this marketing psychology in? I think you can't not bake the marketing psychology in, because this is about the way that humans operate. If a new set of humans started to be born tomorrow and they didn't have the same programming, they had different programming, and maybe that'll happen. Maybe the convergence of technology will force the species programming to change over the next 50, 100 years. But as of right now, you've got to appear to be a safe choice. You've got to appear to be friendly. You've got to appear to be someone that they can trust. And that's the only long-term marketing strategy for any MSP.
Excellent. I really like all of that, man. So I wanna ask you about some of the things that I'm seeing on your website here, because I want to dive into some of this deeper, because it sounds like you know what you're talking about. The crazy thing is, you said it. You're not a tech. You've never been an IT guy.
No.
And you decided to make a company all for IT guys.
The circumstance. Well, I quite enjoy technology. I'm not very good with technology, and you had to help me reboot my Mac for us to do this interview. So that's an indicator of where my technology level is.
I wasn't going to tell people that.
Much better to be honest. I like gadgets. I like technology, and I used to work in radio. I spent 10 years working in radio, and radio's fun. I was on the air. I was a presenter. And then I ran the radio station, and some of my favourite people to talk to were the engineers who kept the radio station running. And we're talking, back in the sort of the late 90s, early noughties, where you've got guys with screwdrivers literally taking things apart, and when everything could be repaired, and swapping out components and all of that kind of stuff. And I used to love just hanging around their workshop and talking to them. And even though I didn't have the skills to do that, I was quite interested in it. And I had a healthcare marketing business which I sold in 2016. And as part of that sale, there were some fairly severe restrictions on what I could do for the following 5 years. So I've still got another year on my restrictions. And one of them was that I couldn't work within those healthcare sectors. So the thing that I'd spent 10 years building up, I could no longer work in. So I kind of in my mind look back at what other sectors do I enjoy working in? Because I knew I needed a niche. I knew my next business would have to have a niche or a niche. And because niche or vertical marketing works so much better than just general marketing, and we can talk further about that if you want to down the line. Yeah. But I kind of cast around and I looked at IT support companies. They look fun. I didn't even know what the acronym MSP stood for, and this is back in 2016. I had a few IT support companies in the early days of my first marketing business, and I quite enjoyed doing that work, and I just kind of dipped my toe into it. And I made a commitment. It was late 2016. I wrote a book called Updating Servers Doesn't Grow Your Business, which by the way, you can get free. You can get a copy of that free at my website. We post those out free in the UK and in the US. And that for me was mentally, I was committing myself to this market for, in my head it was 5 years, and now I'll be here for 10 years because I absolutely adore it. I don't think you need to be a tech. In fact, if because you were a tech, weren't you, Steve?
I was.
You were. So I think the downside of having been a tech or being a tech and understanding technology is it's far too easy to get dragged into that. And a lot of the MSPs that I work with, we have to sometimes just if we're having a conversation and they'll start talking about, oh, have you looked at so-and-so configuration? And they'll start having a technical conversation, and they can see that my eyes are glazing over because I don't really understand what they're talking about. And I kind of have to pull them back from that and say, right, look, the context of what we're talking about here is getting more new clients, generating more monthly recurring revenue, and selling more. The technical configurations of something have nothing to do with it. And that is almost actually a superpower for me, in that I'm not interested at the kind of level of detail that most MSPs are interested about technical stuff. So I can sort of bring it back to actually, how do we influence people, how do we build relationships, and how do we close sales? Because those, in terms of growing the business, those are the most important things.
Very true. All right. So when I look at your website, paulgreensmspmarketing.com, I see you've got a free marketing book.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that's just give me your email address and I'll give you a book.
Yep.
How long is this book? I mean, are we talking like 8 to 12 pages, or?
No, it's 48 pages. It's or 44 pages, something like that. It was it's one of those nice slim books that you can read on the toilet in about an hour, or two
I
days.
hope you're not on the toilet for an hour in one sitting.
Sometimes that's the only, particularly if you have children, that's the only piece you get all day.
It's so true.
But no, it's designed to be a toilet read. So that book, and I actually supply a book to my MSP Marketing Edge clients, and that book is called Email Hijack, which is the story written from the point of view of a business owner about how their email is breached and how ultimately $12,000 is stolen from their bank account. And the reason I write that book for my clients, and they can put their name on the front as if they've written it, is for exactly the same reason that I give a book away. There are 3 reasons to give a book away. Number 1, it is the ultimate positioner. So I wrote that book in, I think it was a day or 2 days. I self-published it. I literally rang up a printer and said, I got 5,000 copies printed in the UK. I think we got 2,000 sat in a warehouse in Chicago, Illinois. But I self-published those. There's no publisher involved. We don't sell them. It says, $4.99 on the back, but I have never sold a single copy. I've given them away. And the primary reason for that is positioning. Because suddenly I'm a published author. And that's amazing. If you looked at me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I think the first words are, it says MSP marketing expert, published author, and podcaster, and those are all sort of credibility ticks. I've ticked off 3 credibility things. So how did I enter a brand new market in 2016 where I didn't really know what the market was about? I didn't even know. Someone said to me about blah 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 the channel, and I had to kind of have my poker face back in 2016 and think, what the hell is the channel? Because in the UK, where I'm based, the channel is the sea between us and France. That's known as the English Channel.
Oh, that's right.
I had no idea what they were talking about. So how do you break into a market like that? Well, you write a book, and if you read that book on the toilet or elsewhere, it's not about tech at all. It's about marketing, and it actually kind of tells my story of how I turned my struggling marketing business, 10, 15 years ago, how I turned that round and how I freed myself, and the relationship I have with my family, and then we sort of talk about some marketing principles and stuff like that. So it's designed as a positioning tool. It's also an epic business card. So I don't actually physically have business cards. I have my book. And if I go and do a talk, I did a couple of talks pre-lockdown in the middle of the UK for a couple of hundred MSPs, and I just took a couple of hundred books. So when people were coming up to me afterwards and saying, "Hey, can we have your business card so we can chat?" It's like, no, I don't have a business card. Here's my book. And that book, has much more chance of engagement than it does a business card. A business card just goes into a pocket or thrown in a drawer somewhere, whereas a book's a book. We're all taught, even our kids today in the electronic age or the digital age, are taught that books have value. I'll let you into a secret, Steve. That book, which says $4.99 on the back, costs me, I think it's about 53 cents to print. In fact, it costs me more. Yeah, it's because of the number that we ordered. It costs me more to post it than it did actually to print it, which is absolutely insane. So it's a great positioner, it's a great business card, but the third thing, and the reason why it's on the homepage of my website, and the reason why I tell my clients to put it on their website, put their book on their website, is because it's for data capture. So you mentioned about you have to put in your email address, and obviously ask you for a physical address if you want us to send you a physical copy. This is how I get people onto my email list. And we're nearing 2,000 MSPs on that list now. And that's a genuine number of MSPs because we kick off vendors and non-MSPs and time wasters and all that kind of stuff. So we've got just under 2,000 MSPs, and every single one of them has gone onto the website and has filled in their contact details and chosen to join my email list. And the reason that they've done that is because we've given them the book in return. So it's almost like you give me something, I'll give you something in return. And no one likes just filling in their email address unless there's some benefit to them doing so. And I have to say, MSPs are more suspicious than any other kind of business owner in terms of entering their contact details. So it's another reason for having a book, because and having a physical print book, because it seems more real. Now, my clients do exactly the same thing with their book, with Email Hijack, as this year's book is called, or whatever next year's book is going to be about. They offer their prospects a physical copy of the book in return for their contact details. And along the way, they build up their email list. So something as simple as a book, can you see how it has just so many different advantages?
Do I suddenly sound better?
What do you mean?
Apparently, I've been using the wrong microphone the whole time.
Oh, right. No, I didn't notice, to be honest. But yes, there is a good... See, even text can get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah, I sure can. Literally all day, every day. All right, so I like that, man. Free book. Book is your business card. 40 plus pages of a book. Now, this book sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to get a copy. Just because I like learning about people, man. It's fun learning about people. And when I see free marketing book, I think you're sending me a PDF.
So there is a PDF, and if you're not in the UK or the US, that's all you'll get. But and again, this is best practice here. The best practice is to, when someone signs up, you email them the PDF instantly for the instant gratification.
Oh, good.
But the reason, and then we physically post out the book. The reason that we don't do just a PDF is because if you were to look on your laptop, Steve, how many PDFs have you downloaded into perhaps a folder that's called must read one day that you've never actually read? Hundreds? I mean, I've got absolutely tons and tons of them.
I do, man. And not just PDFs. I also have a folder with videos. Like I'll sign up for membership sites, and they'll have all these videos I should watch for training and all this stuff. And I have folders of videos, man. I've got workbooks and videos and training guides. And I probably have, if I were to take a month and do nothing but continuous self-improvement, I might get through all of it. Assuming I work on it 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, but the reality is you wouldn't, and none of us do, and this is the big downside of digital stuff. It's like emails, it's like social media, PDFs. The cost of distribution of content has gone down. As I say to you, I used to work in radio stations. In 1998, I was working on I just joined a radio station in the middle of the UK, just a little local station. And it was my first time being a disc jockey, and we used to do our thing, play the music, do some talking, and then play the adverts. And that was probably the point they were making the most profit from the adverts, because the radio station controlled the distribution. There was no other way of reaching that local market than paying to be on the radio, paying to be in the newspaper, paying to be in the Yellow Pages, which is like a directory in the UK, and I think there was a cable TV channel, and that was it. There were no other ways. Whereas now, we fast forward only 23 years, and actually the distribution methods, in fact, you could go through to even 2005, 2006, and the distribution methods are now in the hands of anyone. You have a great podcast which any human being on the planet with an internet connection could watch. And it's only really been in the last 5 to 10 years that you've been able to do that. This is why the big media companies are struggling, because the only reason they made money was because they controlled the distribution. So anyone can distribute anything. We can email anyone. We can put anything on social media. We can write a PDF about anything and send it anywhere. And because everyone is doing that, the perceived value of this information has just plummeted. We've all got our folders of stuff and things. God, I bought. This is embarrassing. Have you heard of Jay Abraham, who's one of the sort of the master marketers? So go and
Sounds
look him
familiar.
up again. He's if you've ever followed anyone like Dan Kennedy, who's a great US marketer, and a couple of other people, they all of them can be tracked back to a guy called Jay Abraham, who must be in his 70s now, and he is perhaps one of the best world marketers. He's based in the States, and I've been following him for years. And about 3 years ago, I bought it was Jay's ultimate hard disk. And it was literally a hard disk, a dump of all of his stuff off his laptop. I think actually, so a member of his team just literally went on his laptop and just downloaded all of his courses and stuff he'd done. And the reason I know that is because I once found on a document in there Tony Robbins' mobile phone number or cell phone number. And Tony Robbins, I'm sure you have heard of. He's the kind of guy you shouldn't have his cell number. So one day I'm going to get drunk, wait for a good time in California and give him a call and see if that works. But anyway, that's by the by. I bought this hard disk. I spent, I think it was $4,000 on this hard disk, and it is a physical hard disk, and I've only ever plugged it in twice. And that was sort of 3-4 years ago. And in fact, now as I'm thinking about it, I'm looking over there. I know where it is. I know which drawer it's in, because it's not tangible. I mean, there's a ton of good stuff on there. I know I'll get $50, $100, $200,000 worth of value out of it if I plugged it in right now, started reading stuff, started actioning it. But because it's all digital, it's like, oh, it's just sitting there. Now, if they physically sent me a box, a massive box of stuff, then I'm going to read it on the toilet. I'm going to read it in bed. I'm going to read it on the sofa. The manuals would be sitting on my desk right now. It's more tangible. And do you know what? They could have charged a lot more for it as well. And I mean, their profit margins on $3,000 on a hard disk are probably pretty good. But they could easily charge $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the hard disk and the hard copies as well.
I'm sure it's a $65 disc.
Oh, don't even go there. It's probably he probably had a tax bill or something to pay, and his team just came up with this idea of just dump everything on a hard disk and post the hard disks out. But it's the packaging, and this is why a book, which is exactly the same information as a PDF, has more perceived value, and that's why you can put $4.99 on the back. It's got an ISBN, an International Standard Barcode number, which if theoretically means it's on Amazon. Not that you can buy it on Amazon because there's no stock on there, but you get the idea. It is tangible and it is real. And I think it's interesting. I was talking to one of my MSP clients the other day, and we were talking about proposals. And they had put in 2 or 3 proposals recently and not one. And we were talking about the psychology of how the end client reads a proposal. And all they've been doing, I think they were using betterproposals.io, which is a great piece of software. And it can track whether or not someone's opened it and how long they've looked at it and all of that kind of stuff. But the downside is it's not tangible, it's not physical, it's not real. And what I recommended to them was that they actually print off a proposal. So they send it via Better Proposals so that they've got that instant gratification. They've seen the person at 9 a.m. They've sent the proposal off by lunchtime. And then I said to them, get that printed off, get it into, it was a UK client, but get it into the UK equivalent of FedEx, get that there by the end of play. So they've seen you in the morning, they've had the online proposal by the afternoon, and a physical copy has turned up in a FedEx package in the afternoon, and that ticks every box. They've got a physical thing that they can look at. There's the online version for them to go and look at. It's an absolute beautiful thing. And this was only about a week ago we had this conversation, but I'm fully expecting them to win more business off the back of this, because the proposal now has suddenly become real. And also their competitors are only emailing stuff as well. So instantly, just for the sake of $10, $20, whatever, they're standing out. I have to tell you, one of my other clients has taken this to a whole new level. They actually have a book printed. It's only like a 10-page book, but it's a hardcover book. It's got the prospects logo on the front, and they, let's say 7 of those 10 pages are the same 7 pages, which talks about their business, and it's got testimonials and a case study, and then the last 3 pages are, what they've talked about, what solution they're proposing, the price, of course, because everyone just flips to the price. Now, could you imagine the impact that happens when they deliver that book, and they actually hand deliver it themselves? They can get it. They've got a local printer that can turn it around in about 48 hours or so, and they actually physically deliver that to the person, whether they're working from home or whether they're in an office, and say to them, here's your proposal. And it's a hardback book. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it's those kind of little things that can, making stuff physical makes it more tangible, which gives it more value, which gives it more attention. And we all know that one new client for an MSP can be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 10 to 15 years. So would you spend $20 to try and just give yourself the edge on that client? Absolutely, you would. But what's interesting, Steve, is most MSPs don't. And the vast majority of people who listen to this will never go and do that idea. They'll never turn anything physical, or they'll listen to these and think, oh, these are really good ideas, but they'll never actually end up actioning them. And I think I know I'm going off onto a different subject now, but that's what makes the difference between the really successful MSPs and the MSPs that are doing okay. The really successful ones pick up 2 or 3 or 4 good ideas and they they implement the very best of them. And they take things and take them forward a few more steps. And in any marketplace, I believe any MSP can dominate just by getting good at marketing. And you don't have to be world class at marketing. You just need to be slightly better than your competition. And the good news is, in vast majority of marketplaces, the competition simply is not very good at marketing.
And that's really true. There's now me, I'm more of a digital marketing kind of guy. So there's one of my members, he has a website. I would be embarrassed to show it to you. He would be embarrassed if I showed it to you. He knows it's not good. I tease him about it. It's okay. It's all in fun, But the one thing I've been helping him with is every week, I'm all about making like micro changes. I help people stay accountable, and let's just make little changes in your business every week. Because you've already got a successful business going. We don't need to turn around and fix everything. We just need to tweak it to make it better, So I'll say, okay, I need you to do this change on your website. So, one of the first things we did was we added Google Analytics, and then we added a Facebook pixel. And then we fixed the title and description meta tags. And then we added more pages and more content. And I mean, we just kept going. Like, I've got a list of here's all the things that we need to do to fix up a website. And I'm just going through the list with him. I would give him the list if I thought it would help, but I think it would just overwhelm the guy. Much like me handing you a hard drive with 350 gigs worth of stuff is going to just overwhelm you. So what I'd rather do is just do this one thing. I'm not going to give you the whole list. Just take this one line item. Let's check off this one thing. And if you don't accomplish anything else in the next week, but checking off this one box, then your week was a success.
I love that. I love that approach. In fact, have you read a book called The Compound Effect?
I've not.
I think it's Josh Kaufman is the author, but I can't remember the author's name, but it's definitely called The Compound Effect. And in essence, you've just summarized that book, which is do a little bit every week. And actually, if you could make one change into 2 changes, then you get twice the amount of results, over the same period of time, fairly obviously. You and I are both familiar with the concept of compound interest. Absolutely. Which is, you put $100 in the bank, and in 20 years' time, that's worth $1,000 because you're getting interest on the interest, if you can get interest from banks these days. But the compound effect is exactly the same, and I absolutely adore that. Tiny actions every day add up over a period of time. One of the things I recommend to all my clients is, and you probably do exactly the same, Steve, is give yourself, if you can, find 60 to 90 minutes every single day to work on the business rather than working in the business. So where working in is doing technical work, it's talking to your staff, it's dealing with problems, it's admin, invoicing, all of that kind of stuff. That stuff has to happen because it's what the business does, but it doesn't grow the business. Whereas working on the business is working on your marketing, improving your website, putting in place things that help you sell more monthly recurring revenue streams to clients, improving the business. I've had a habit since 2005, since I started my first business. When I was in radio, I used to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning because that's what time you have to be up to be on the radio at 6. And when I started the business, I thought I'd give myself a lie-in, and I started getting up at 5 a.m. And up until lockdown, every weekday I was getting up at 5 a.m. and I was spending 2 hours working on my business. And I have to say, nothing makes you feel more epic than getting to 7 in the morning when most of your competitors and most of your friends and peers are still, lying in bed, slobbering out of their mouth, and you've achieved 2 hours of solid improvement of your business. Because that 2 hours adds up to 10 hours a week, which adds up to 40 hours a month. So it's kind of like you're spending a whole week of a month working just on your business. And I built my entire last business, and I built this business. I'm doing exactly the same thing. It's only lockdown that's now, I'm now a 6 a.m. riser, and I suspect now I'm getting into my sort of mid to late 40s that it's getting a lot harder to get up at 5 a.m. So I think we'll change that to a 6 a.m. habit. But that's exactly the compound effect. It's exactly that, a series of small changes which at the time seem insignificant, but they add up so much. So I think that's a really smart thing to do.
It is. So yeah, that's what I help people with. But I guess where I was going with all that was, like you said, it just takes fixing your marketing and being better than your competition. So I tease this guy about his website, but all of his competitors, because he's in like I wouldn't say it's like a rural area, but it is compared to, like, I don't know where you're at. Maybe you're near London, and that just is a booming city, right? Well, I mean, he's in the middle of the boonies compared to that, So
Yeah.
his competitors, their websites, one of them looks like it was made in like the 2000 tech boom. It looks like it was made on GeoCities. Like, it's just bad.
Wow.
The other one was made by one of those IT website companies, but
Yep.
you can tell it was like you could tell it was one of the like first draft versions, and like they've had it for over 10 years and they just haven't changed it. So it's got a lot of broken stuff. So it's really like the little bit of changes we've made, he's already starting to see more traffic. Now we need to target the traffic because he's getting a lot of people from like India coming to his website and fill out forms. But what this tells me is his website is now searchable. It's locatable on Google, and these jerks from India are able to find him now when they weren't able to before. So we're making changes. Now we need to, now we're working on installing the CAPTCHA and the Akismet and like all that kind of stuff to prevent all the spam from filling out his forms. So yeah, I'm all about the same thing, man. Your marketing has to be just a little bit better than the rest of the people around you. And, some people, it could be, I'm going to print out a frickin' hardback book. And other people, it could just be my website sucks just a little bit less than the other guys. I mean,
Yeah.
it really could be anything on that spectrum.
Yeah, well, for your client in a rural area, and I'm in a rural area, but for your client in a rural area, he actually has the opportunity to utterly dominate. Because you talk about London, which is big city. Whereabouts are you based, Steve?
I'm in the Cleveland, Ohio area, but I'm in a suburb of a suburb.
Okay, but you get anywhere near a major city, and you as an MSP, you've got 50 to 100 competitors, and it's busy, and this is what's driven the cost of Google Ads up. That kind of intense competition. But for someone who's in a more rural area where all of the his competitors have got a GeoCities website. I've so forgotten that even existed.
Right.
His other competitors got a very early MSP specialist one. And people know aged and old websites when they see them. They know it at an emotional level because they're not comparing them to other MSPs. They're comparing them to all websites. You're very much being compared to what eBay looks like, and Amazon and Google and all of these kind of things.
Right.
Your client imagine if he could get his marketing 200 times better in the next 20 weeks. He would literally dominate that marketplace because the competitors simply wouldn't know what was hitting them. This is what makes me excited. This is what gets me up in the morning, because I have a bunch of clients like that. Not quite as bad, because the UK is a much smaller place, so people tend to overlap a lot more, and that makes, if you have a really bad website, it does so much damage to your business so quickly you can't exist. And also in the UK, MSPs don't charge nearly as much as you guys do in the States, which no one really understands why there's this massive price disparity. But you can be bad at marketing and keep 3 or 4 clients and make a perfectly good living in the States, but you can't in the UK. But this is what gets me excited, that you don't have to be a world-class marketer. You don't need to know a lot about marketing. You just need to be slightly better. It's the bears in the wood analogy. So Steve, you and I, let's say I fly over to see you, and we go for a walk, and you say, let's go for a walk in the woods. And I say, that looks a bit dangerous. Are the bears? And you say, no, the bears are hibernating at this time of year. So we're in the middle of the woods, and suddenly out of nowhere comes a bear, and he's sleepy. He's just woken up. He's rubbing sleep out of his eyes, and he is hungry. He has not eaten for 4 months, and he's hungry, and he's going to eat one of us. And you and I look at each other, and we start running, and we run, and we run, and we run, and we run. And after an hour, we stop in a clearing, and we are both exhausted. And you get your backpack off, and you start to get your sneakers out. And I say, Steve, what are you doing? We've got to outrun the bear. And you look at me very coldly, and you say, no, Paul, I haven't got to outrun the bear. I've just got to outrun you.
And see, when you said the bear in the woods analogy, I thought you were going to say, if a bear shits in the wood and no one's there to see it, wait, no, that's the tree falling in the forest. No, you're right. You're right.
That's quite a different analogy. But I can see now that maybe I need to change my analogies on the bear one.
Oh, no, and see, earlier you were talking about J. Abraham, and my mind immediately went to J.J. Abrams. Now,
right, as in the Star Trek, the Star Trek director.
Yeah, Star Trek. He also did Star Wars, the last two Star Wars films.
He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah,
he's done a lot, man. He's a really great director. All right, so I'm sorry, I totally derailed you.
That's okay. That's no problem. You whatever the bears do in the woods, I've been eaten by the bear anyway, so it's fine.
I assure you, first of all, I would never say let's go for a hike. Okay? Whether it's in the woods, in a parking lot, just around my house one time. No, not going to happen. Second of all, if you and I were going to get chased by a bear, you don't even have to run, man. All right, you just you just go for a brisk walk. You can just take like 20 steps, turn around, and watch.
You're the host. I was being polite.
No, it's okay. I'll say it. You don't have to. All right, so so when I look at your website, I'm going to take it way back. Your website says 263 MSPs use it, trust it, love it every month. When I look to see what all is available with this, I was actually really impressed. And I got to remember how to get to it, to be completely honest.
It's MSPMarketingEdge.com, and then click on the US flag.
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm there, and then I had to click on the click here to see if your area is still available, because there's not a here's all the stuff you get. You have to click to see if your area is still available.
Okay, it should be the first page you land on should be all the stuff that you get. If you go to mspmarketingedge.com/US, and that should if you it'll ask you if your area is available.
You're right.
You scroll down.
I wasn't expecting.
I'll tell you how we got to this. I'll tell you how we got to this, Steve, because this is an interesting marketing lesson. So our pages today are not how the pages looked, let's say 12 months ago.
I just
Say again, sorry, I missed
that.
I
just changed mine last week. I don't blame you. I mean, sometimes you got to make changes.
We didn't change them based on our opinions, because I've got some very strong opinions on what websites should look like. And it's really interesting to hear you say, where's the list of stuff? Because that was my fear. But what we did was we did two things, and I recommend all MSPs do this. First of all, we installed something called hotjar.com into the website. So Hotjar does two things. It will do heat mapping for you. So heat mapping shows you what people are looking at, and it shows you where they're clicking. And they are not clicking where you think they're clicking. They are not going as far down the page as you think they are. So for example, our previous site from about 12 months ago was very video heavy, because we had I'm quite enjoy doing videos. We had loads of different videos, and we found out from the heat mapping, people were not watching the videos, which was a genuine gobsmack moment for us, The other thing that Hotjar allows you to do is it allows you to see videos of people using the website. So you can't actually see the human being, but you can see what they did on the website. And my poor marketing manager, James, for about 6 months, every 2-3 nights a week, he would sit and watch all the recordings of what people were doing, and he was matching them up to, right, if we got a sale here, what happened here, where did they come from, and we were really drilling down into the raw detail of it. And then we started a series of split tests. Now, split tests are where you have 2 different versions of a page, and the software we use for this.
A/B testing. I'm familiar.
That's exactly right. And we use something called Google Optimize for this, which is a free split tester. And of course, Google's already in your website, so it's one extra line of code or a button or something you have to press just to allow them to do this. But we would take the page. Let's call that version A. There's version A. And we would change one element, let's say the headline, or we'd move the video, or we'd change something else, and that would create a version B. And we could actually do that within Google Optimize, so we didn't have to physically create a second page. And then we'd say to Google, right, send an equal amount of traffic to each of those pages. So 100 people went to page A, 100 different people went to page B, and either page B would perform better or perform worse. And 8 times out of 10, it actually performed worse. But what we ended up doing was we ended up with the workflow or the sales flow that you see today. And it's not what I would have recommended early on. And it was a really interesting thing for me as, a marketer of 15 years experience, that the actual flow of influencing people in websites is completely different to how you think people should work. And this is why if you pull up an Amazon page, particularly on a desktop or a laptop, it's on the cell phone, it's not so bad, but on a desktop or a laptop, and you look at an Amazon page, and it is ugly, isn't it? It's horrendous. You think that the information is all over the shop, and the buttons seem to be in the wrong places, and nothing really stands out, and you've got all these sponsored items and this and that, and the page goes on and on and on and on and on. But Amazon is the second biggest e-commerce retailer in the world, second only to Alibaba, which is a Chinese company. And the reason they've become that way is through their version of split testing. Now they have so many people using so many pages at any one time. They can actually do something called multivariate testing. And I'm sure even today that Amazon is constantly testing its pages and trying out new things. And in fact, I recently noticed
they've got a whole department for that.
They got a hold of what? Sorry.
They've got a whole department just for that.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I have no doubt that there's a whole department sitting making Jeff Bezos even richer, by helping us to buy more. I was looking at some furniture. I moved house just before lockdown, and I was in my bedroom at the weekend thinking, right, this is pretty much the last room to fix. And I spent 2 hours on Amazon looking at furniture, and there were 360 tours, and all. I was being directed towards Amazon brands. I didn't know there were Amazon brands until I Googled them, and it was a very, I spent 2 hours on Amazon shopping for furniture. Now I didn't buy anything in the end, but it was a beautiful experience. The 5-10 minutes I spent on the proper furniture company's websites was not a beautiful experience. It was very limited. There was very little interactivity. There were no negative reviews. I couldn't see 360 tours. This is how Amazon and Google and all the big guys have become so dominant through this constant split testing. And this is the opportunity for MSPs. This is that whole being a little bit better. And I'm sure for you at some point, Steve, you'll say to your client when he's finished the checklist of all the basics to do, that you'll say to him, right, let's get some split testing going. It's going to be challenging because you've only got a finite amount of traffic coming through, and split testing works better with big traffic. Sure. But now let's see or at the very least, let's put Hotjar in. Let's see what people are doing, actually physically doing in the site, and then we can make changes to leverage from that.
I like that. All right, so I'm going to install Hotjar today. That's going to happen.
Cool.
Just because, if nothing else, I want to see what people do when they go to my website.
It's addictive. Just to warn you, you will sit there for hours watching videos.
I bet that a lot of people are probably just gonna, I don't know, click on the login button because that's what they do.
But that's it's interesting because that's how you can then determine, is this person a client or not a client. So someone that clicks on login in Hotjar, you could then tag them as client, and you ignore their sessions from now on, unless you wanted to improve the way it's working for them, but obviously their clients, you can just talk to them and say, what can we do to make this easier? It's the non-clients that you really need to obsess over, and we did that early on. We made it very easy for ourselves by cutting out the people that we knew, and we were just focusing in on, I wanted the strangers, the people who didn't know me, I didn't know them, but they're on my website, and I want to, as a team, we were obsessing over, why aren't they buying? Or what's worse is they started to buy and they've stopped, which of course is called cart abandonment. If you looked in an MSP's website, and I've done this with some of my clients, where we've had a hot jar and someone started to fill in an inquiry form, but then they never hit the send button, and you kind of tearing your hair out thinking, why have they not hit the send button? That's they are literally one click away from being a prospect, and of course once they become a prospect, they're dramatically more likely to become a client. So what is it? What's the thing that's put them off and stop them clicking that button? It's incredibly frustrating. It's just a shame that Hotjar, when someone does fill in a form, they don't let you see what they filled in. They actually blank it out, so you can't get the data just from watching the Hotjar recording. But what you can get is the insight that for some reason someone didn't do that thing. They didn't take that action.
Interesting. Well, thank you. I can't wait to waste hours of my life on this.
It's a pleasure.
This is going to be fantastic. All right. So what else, if, I need to figure out how I want to say this question. All right. So let's say I don't think I'm ready to spend $129 a month on Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge. First off, I'm sure you have some choice words to say to the person that says that awful sentence. Second of all, what would you recommend that person should be working on if they don't think they're ready for you? There's a reason for that.
Absolutely, and I say this to all of my clients and all MSPs. People only buy when they're ready to buy, and you cannot fast forward that. All you can do is insert yourself at the appropriate point. This is why the sales cycle for an MSP is so long. In fact, the world that we're in is wonderful and frustrating at the same time. It's wonderful because you keep clients for 10 years. Most MSPs still have their first or second client 10, 15 years on, which is great. It's full of monthly recurring revenue. In fact, those two things together is what allows MSPs to be bad at marketing. Because one new client can be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of revenue over the next 5-10 years. So you don't need massive amounts of clients, you just need a small number. So those are the wonderful things. The bad thing is that the sales cycle is so long. It's so long, and also people suffer enormously from something called inertia loyalty. Inertia loyalty is where it just seems easier to stick with where you're at. Every single MSP watching this will have had a situation where they were talking to a prospect and they got on really well with them, and they put their quote in and the quote was favorable, everything looked good. The prospect was telling them, I really don't get on with my current IT support guys, and as an MSP you think, yep, this one's in the bag, and then they go and sign another contract with their incumbent MSP. And you ring them up and you say to them, well, why did you do that? But hi, just checking in, what was your thinking on that? And they say, do you know, it just seemed easier to stick with those guys for another year. No, it's not you, it's us. That's inertia loyalty. So, people have to be really, really, really motivated to switch MSPs. And then when they do, you've only got a tiny window to do so. And this is why, just bringing it back to when we were talking about building audiences and building a relationship with them, this is why you have to take a long-term approach to the marketing and be in front of people at the exact moment that they are ready to buy. So to come back and answer your question, this is why I send out emails every week, and they're educational emails teaching MSPs about marketing. I have a Facebook group with just about to hit 1,000 members in, and if you go onto Facebook and search for Paul Green's MSP Marketing, that comes up. We've got the podcast, which we've just had our 11,000th download on, which is not bad for sort of 9 months for a 9-month-old podcast. And all of these things is how I can help MSPs. And it doesn't cost anything. There's loads of advice, and we give some really high quality stuff out there, and it all comes from me. This is my primary job in the business, is creating content and engaging with prospects, and obviously the client work as well. My team do all of the boring stuff around that, which is a wonderful setup to have. So we give loads and loads of value on the email list, in the Facebook group, on the podcast, and we do that deliberately because one day some of those people will wake up and think, hey, I'd like to try this out, or the time is right for me today, and we make it easy to stop anyway. There's no contracts or anything like that. But I think this is, the marketing that I do for my business is exactly the same marketing that I recommend to MSPs. And one of the things I do is put myself in the MSP's shoes. If I bought an MSP tomorrow, how would I market that MSP? And answering that question is how we've developed the services that we've developed and the marketing we've developed, because it's exactly the same. So the marketing I sell to the MSPs is what I would do if I bought an MSP, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Okay. So I still don't really feel like I got the right answer now. Or you didn't answer the question I was trying to ask. That's
okay.
How about that? So the question I was trying to ask was, if an MSP doesn't feel like they're ready to buy your marketing service, is there something that you think that they could be doing marketing wise to make them feel like, all right, I've done this, I don't know what else I should be doing, so now I need Paul Green.
Got it. So the marketing basics then. I get your question now. Apologies, I didn't quite get it before. So get your website as good as it could possibly be, and we talked about that a lot. But literally, when you think you've finished, keep going. When you think you've finished, keep going. And there are an infinite number of improvements that you can make to your website. So getting your website to be absolutely beautiful. Secondly, your LinkedIn. LinkedIn is both horrendous and amazing at the same time. If I'd said to you in the late 1990s, hey Steve, guess what? In 10 years time, there's going to be a worldwide database of every single prospect you could ever hope to speak to. You can search for them, you can connect with them, you can message them, you can put your stuff in front of them, and it won't cost you anything most of the time. You would have said 15 years ago, you would have said, this is insane, bring it on. And now we look at LinkedIn and we get a bit depressed because everyone seems to be doing better than us on LinkedIn, and there's just all this content to go through. LinkedIn is the number one marketing platform, B2B marketing platform for MSPs right now. And I think the more time you focus on getting, there's 3 C's on LinkedIn. There's connect, there's content, and there's contact. So connect to people. You can use, even on a free subscription on LinkedIn, you can connect to, I think it's up to 20 people a day. And you can use very clever automated tools. There's one called Dux Soup, which is DUX-soup, as in soup that you drink. And there's various alternatives to that, but they will automate your behavior for you in connecting to people. So I use Dux Soup. I've gone from about 500 connections to 4,000 connections, and that's all been built by Dux Soup. It sits as a plugin in my Chrome. It's actually on my marketing manager's Chrome, and it sits and replicates human behavior. So it'll go and look at a profile, read the profile a bit, click the connection request, paste in a message, personalize it, and send it. So it's doing all of that so that humans don't have to. So that's connect. Second C is is content. So putting on content 2 to 3 times a week on LinkedIn is critical. And the very best kind of content is real, personalized content.
Do you actually think LinkedIn works? So many of us think. So here's my perception of LinkedIn. It's just a bunch of people on Facebook for nerds that are trying to sell bullcrap to me. So why do I want to try to sell my bullcrap to other people that are just trying to sell bullcrap to me?
Yes, but then that's the point is we're if we're trying to use it as a selling tool, then it has less value. I think you use LinkedIn as an audience and as a way to build up a relationship with that audience, and that's the greatest power of LinkedIn. Is not to be directly selling on it. You use it as a nurturing tool. I said to you, I know that it works, and the reason that I know that it works is because I've got clients who've won clients off LinkedIn, and they've done it through connecting with people, through putting good content in front of them. But I tell you, the thing that's made the difference is they've actually been messaging those people, and they've contacted them directly. And it's the contacting is, you can do it partly through messaging. I'm actually a big fan of just picking up the phone, and I say to my clients, just pick up the phone, call your LinkedIn contacts. That's going to generate you people to talk to. The goal is to get you and them on the phone or on a Zoom call for 15 minutes. That's all we want to do, and if you can achieve that, that's a very wonderful thing.
Okay. So we got the connect and the content. So you started talking about
Connect,
LinkedIn.
content, and contact, and those three
Okay.
C's. Do you remember I said earlier about if you can spend an hour or 2 hours a day working on your business? LinkedIn is a great example of something to be working on the business. I do, as I said to you, I do my 2 hours every morning, and I actually do LinkedIn at the end of the day because I find it's just a quick 5-10 minutes at the end of the day. Post a bit of content, respond to any messages, go and click on a few likes or comments on a few posts, and that's it. It's done. And it doesn't have to be a big draw, but you think of it as a database. It's a database of people that you can mine, and that's where it has that value.
All right. Um, so I've got to say, I'm really good at multitasking, Paul. And can I say I've got Hotjar installed?
You've got Hotjar installed while we've been talking. That's
Uh-huh.
amazing. That's very impressive because there's a widget, isn't there? Or is the line of code or something?
Yeah, I just had to add it to my Google Tag Manager,
Okay,
so that was easy.
impressive.
So yeah, I've even had a couple members go to the website for me just so I can see 100% of visitors reached this point and 0% of visitors reached this point.
That's
So
amazing.
that is really cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And there's recordings. So I can literally like nerd out and just watch people like be on my site. This
Yeah,
is this is creepy.
I know. Just don't forget to exclude your own IP address because you don't want to record your own sessions. They'll give you a skewed idea of what you're doing.
Oh, that's really smart. You're
Yeah.
smart.
No, I'm not smart. Hotjar's smart. It's all there in the support center if you go and look for it. Hotjar's very smart. This is the thing. We live in an amazing age. There's you name it. There's a tool out there. I mean, how many SaaS, software as a service applications must launch every day? 20, 30, 40. If you look at what's it called? Is it Product Hunt or TechCrunch or some of these where you can track all these new apps? There is literally nothing you cannot do, and it's a shame that you can't get a lot of these things in one place and all in one piece of software. And I think that's probably the next iteration is software that does everything. But we are literally at a point now where we can do almost anything with our websites if we're willing to have another subscription to do it. And something like Hotjar, which it's free. That's the other thing. It's free for a finite amount of recordings. And what
Correct.
you'll find, Steve, is go and watch those recordings. You can just clear them down, and it will carry on recording again. We had a paid subscription, and we didn't actually see the Hotjar would be horrified to hear this, but we didn't see the benefit of the paid subscription because we were just watching the recordings and deleting them anyway. So you might as well stick with the free level. There's so many tools around, and you've got very very big companies making multi-million dollars worth of sales and revenue every day, and they're using very, very smart tools. You come back down to an MSP level, again, you only need to be slightly better. You just need to use 2 or 3 of these tools to be slightly better because most of the other MSPs are not using these tools at all.
This is so cool, man. I'm like, this is blowing my freaking. You have no idea. Like, I am probably going to be talking about this on next month's monthly roundtable, where I just kind of nerd out and talk about some of these tools. What else? What else should I be using? What other tools do I need to nerd out about with my website?
The other one that's probably worth looking at is something called Albacross, which is ALBA cross, as in angry. Albacross.com, and I'm not sure if it operates in the States, although I think it will do because it's a very heavily backed VC funded one. So Albacross, and there will be other competitors. It attempts to tell you exactly who has been on your website. Now, their business model has changed about 30 times in the last 2 years, so I have no idea what the pricing or the business model is right now. But certainly when I tried it out a couple of years ago, you installed their plugin, and the way it does is it matches up IP addresses and lots of other bits of data. So let's say I'm on your website, Steve, it would say, it wouldn't know that it was Paul Green, but it would know that it was my company that was on your website. It occurs to me as I'm saying this that the work from home revolution is completely going to destroy their business model, because a lot of
Oh
their business
yeah.
model relies on you being in an office and on a certain IP address and whatsoever. The other
Oh,
thing that we
that's
found,
funny.
and a load of my clients tried this, and then most seem to, not all of them, but most of them seem to fall by the wayside, is it's really good at identifying big businesses. if Microsoft visits your website, then of course it will identify Microsoft because it's got the IP range. But if the mom and pop 5-employee business down the road visits, it's not guaranteed that they're in the database. But again, they may have a free trial, so it's probably worth having a look and just seeing what it's worth.
They do. I see $40 a month for the starter plan. Wow, I tried saying plan and package at the same time. So $40 a month for the package. That's the starter one. It gives you 100 leads, whatever that actually means, though. And then they will give you a 14-day trial on that one. And then they have the most popular, and it's only $449 per month billed annually. 2,500 leads. And, a bunch of bold items that are not included in the starter plan, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
but there will be other versions. Yeah, it is interesting. There's one in the UK called Lead Forensics, which is a similar kind of service. It's trying to identify who's on your website. As I say to most MSPs, there's no point having this though unless you're going to take action on it. So if you've got a salesperson or a telephone person and they haven't got enough people to call, that's where something like this might come in handy, because someone's been on the website from XYZ Corp. You can pick up the phone and you can call XYZ Corp. You don't know exactly who to speak to, but if you get through to a 5 to 10 person business, and you need to kind of do a bit of research. If it's a 5 to 10 person business, there's only going to be 1 or 2 people in that whole business that would be on your website, and it's either going to be the CEO or the COO or something like that. So it's a lot easier for to get hold of the person that you want to speak to.
A lot of times here in the States, anyway. Owners think that their time is far more valuable, so they'll put like an office manager on a task like finding the MSP.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point, actually. Yes, I hadn't thought about that.
So, and then I wonder, did you sign up back when you tried it, Albacross? Did you sign up through AppSumo?
Oh, now we're talking entrepreneur crack. We really are.
Oh my gosh, it is, man. It really is.
It is. I have spent thousands of dollars with apps. No, it can't be thousands. It must be at least a couple of thousand with AppSumo. And I am almost afraid to open their emails because do you know AppSumo has become now a funding platform for new startups. So that the business model for a startup piece of software now is you get up to basic viability, you go to AppSumo, they promote you to their enormous database, you will sell $100,000 worth of software like that. And then you can reinvest that money in improving the service. And you've got a bunch of legacy clients that have got a lifetime deal that probably become a pain in the backside eventually. But I have bought so much from AppSumo. And the email, I mean, they must email every day now, every other day. And I'm scared sometimes to open it because I know I'm going to press the button and it's only another $39 for lifetime access to this,
Well, what I've found is that, I don't know. I try things and I am just not impressed. I use that refund feature a lot more than I suspect they want me to.
I've never asked for a refund on AppSumo.
Oh, I've probably asked for 3 dozen refunds.
Oh, wow.
Because the way I look at it is I'll spend the $50 or whatever dollars. I'll sign up for something and I'll see, does this suck or not? Yeah. And if it checks off enough boxes for me, I keep it. If it doesn't, I refund it.
Yeah.
And I understand that this is for them to get funding, and they promise they'll add more features and yada yada yada. I don't care. I want it now.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
So yeah, I have probably there have been moments now. They have more deals than ever. Like it used to be that they might have like 8 to 12 things on their site. Right now, they've easily got 75. They've got 86 results. 86.
It's insane. It's insane.
Now, to be fair, they have free ones. They have 21 free things. They have 5 things that are just annual, 1-year deals. They have 59 lifetime deals on their website right now. Absolutely
It's
insane.
incredible. It's incredible, and it's a great place to waste. Not waste. It's a great place for a lot of your cash flow to go.
It really is, man.
Yeah,
But
it really is.
but I gotta say, like I try things like I tried not SendFox, but they had another like email thing, and it kind of implied it was going to be like an API sending thing, but it didn't do what I thought they were telling me it would do. So like
Yeah.
I was looking for something that would take over. Gosh, why can't I think of it right now? One of those SMTP email services that you use for your
Like
website.
SendGrid or something like
Yeah,
that.
SendGrid.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's exactly the one.
Yeah.
So I was looking for, all right, I'll spend 50, 79, whatever, for a lifetime SendGrid. But it wasn't a SendGrid replacement. It was more like a MailChimp SendGrid hybrid, but
Yeah.
it didn't do either of them very well. So I refunded it. Like, I'm not gonna keep something that sucks. And when you refund it, they remove your access. I'm not trying to be, shady about it. I just don't want junk.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you.
And right now they've got one called Evidence because they're trying to rip off Proof. So it's gonna
Oh,
have
is that?
the little badge in the corner. So and
Yeah.
so just signed up, or whatever.
Yeah, so
Like,
we bought another one of those. I can't remember what it was called, but we bought a version of that last year, and I wasn't that impressed with that. So we actually coded our own, and like I said, I have a developer who works with me, and in fact, maybe I might go and see if I can get the refund. I'll probably out the refund window now.
60 days.
Oh, fine. We're definitely out the refund window. But that was $40, $50, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And actually, our dissatisfaction with it then inspired us to build our own, our own version, because it's not a difficult thing to do.
Was it called Influence?
Might have been actually, yes.
And-
Don't
and
make me
you-
log into my AppSumo account. I'll
And
see
you
how much I've
maybe
spent.
purchased it around July of 2019?
Okay, how do you know that?
Because I purchased Influence in July 10th of 2019.
Okay, I'm gonna have to log in now and find out. This is a scary thing.
And I gotta say, like, in theory, it looks like it should be as good as Proof, but it's not. It's just not.
Oh, really?
And like the one that they have on there right now looks better than Influence. So then it's like, man, I just bought one of these not even, well, yeah, now just over a year ago. So at what point do I have to buy another one of these from AppSumo? Like, do I say, well this one that I bought from AppSumo isn't as good, so I'll buy this other one from AppSumo. Like I almost feel like AppSumo doesn't have any type of
Quality control?
well, that, but I'm also thinking like brand loyalty. Like it doesn't feel like they have any loyalty to the like there are right now two different phone things on AppSumo. There's Click a Call.
But their business model is. I think you're right. They don't have any app loyalty loyalty to the apps. I think what they have is it's become a funding platform. It's a funding choice. It's Groupon. It's Groupon for entrepreneurial software. But it's actually a great business model, and I suspect they will. Maybe they have a series of checks and things that they'll do to see that the product is good enough. Because obviously they invest a series of time. They do the videos, don't they? And they do tours and do all sorts of stuff like that. So there must be a cost to them of doing all of this. But they must also make an immense amount of money out of it.
Well, the even more interesting thing is, like, some of these are actually made by AppSumo. I don't know if you knew
I
that.
didn't know.
So,
Yeah.
AppSumo, AppSumo is a company like Buy Sumo, And then there's SendFox. That's by Sumo.
Mm.
Or no, that's by Apps. And that's where it gets so confusing because some of these are by AppSumo, some of them are by Sumo. It's
Yeah.
really and then they've got King Sumo. Like they've got
Which
all
is the
these
plugin for competitions. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
so
know that they're all related because I know Noah Kagan, if that's how you pronounce his name, I follow his OK Dork blog, and he created Sumo.com, but I'm not sure if he's behind AppSumo or whether it became a. This is all a Google search away, of course. I have to just tell you, I've just logged in and I bought Influence on the 15th of July
it's the
last year,
same day I
2019. You're
bought it, I
absolutely
think.
right. Yeah, terrifying, eh? That must have been the day the email went out about it.
Yeah, Sumo is part of the Sumo family with AppSumo, SendFox, and King Sumo. Copyright
Okay.
2020 Sumo Group Incorporated. So yeah, there is right now they've got three things that you can purchase from AppSumo that are made by AppSumo. And I suspect AppSumo will work things out with some of these places where maybe they're getting a chunk of the company. Like
Quite possibly, yeah.
I wonder if this is like one of those Shark Tank kind of things where, yeah, we'll help you get some funding and we also want like 5% of your business or something like that. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
completely speculating right now.
No, I mean that would be a great model for those people that although it's done on a revenue share, whether or not people have to pay up front to be featured.
That's right. It
Because
is a revenue
it's
share.
interesting. Earlier we were talking about media companies controlling distribution, and all that AppSumo are doing is they're controlling distribution. The same way that is Groupon still going in the States?
Yeah.
Is that still a thing? Yeah, so Groupon's kind of died a death in the UK. It's probably still available, but couldn't tell you the last time I bought a Groupon or even I heard from them. But it's the
I don't
Groupon,
use it unless I want to go to Kalahari.
right?
You don't know what that is though, probably.
I don't know. No.
It's one of those water park kind of places.
Okay.
They charge
Okay.
like $300 a night for a room, but if I go to Groupon, I can get it for 99.
Oh, fine. Okay.
So
But
whatever,
I mean,
like
Groupon and AppSumo, they found ways to control the distribution. AppSumo must have hundreds of thousands of people on their distribution list, and so they know if they send an email, and even if 1% of people buy, that's 5,000 sales or whatever it is. And they found new ways to control the distribution. That's where their power comes from. And I wouldn't blame them for taking small stakes in the businesses, because you take stakes in 100 businesses and 80 of those aren't going to work out, but the 20 that do will be okay, and there'll be one of them will be phenomenal, and it'll be not quite a Facebook, but it'll be an immense payer down the line.
well, the one that I still have not utilized that I got from AppSumo, I signed up for it a month ago. Let me look here. August 4th. I signed up for it August 4th. So it's called ClickMinded.
Okay.
And ClickMinded is one of those SEO course kind of companies. So I thought, I wouldn't mind getting a little bit deeper into search engine optimization. Like, I feel like I've got a pretty solid foundation on it, but I wouldn't mind seeing what else they have. So, it's one of those like I got it, but it's just like a hard drive of 400 gigs of crap on it. I haven't done anything with it, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have dozens of hours of videos I can watch on this. Nothing.
No. And I suspect you're not alone. Like we were talking about with the other hard drive earlier. Print it all.
Well, some of it's not printable. I don't know how to print a video yet. Unless maybe
Well,
I print it and then I flip through it like a...
Well, that's not a bad idea. One of the things we do whenever I send a video out to my clients is I transcribe it at rev.com. And Rev, which costs me, well, you can get automated transcription is 10 cents a minute, or human transcription is, I think it's $1.20 a minute. And I always go for the human transcription. But the advantage is, if you then look at their transcription page, let's say we transcribe this podcast, which would be expensive. But we'd spend $120 and we'd get it, or $140 and get it transcribed. And then let's say someone came in and they wanted to just see the bit about AppSumo, so they could go into the transcription page on rev.com, search for the word AppSumo. That would jump down to where it was, and then if they clicked on the word AppSumo, it would play the exact moment of the video that we were talking about AppSumo.
Okay, so we could do that, but you know what else we could do, Paul?
Go on.
So started streaming 83 minutes ago. Now, once this is done being streamed, and it's actually, starting at 0 and going forwards on the timeline. So on YouTube, you can now put like 1:35 space space, and here's what we were talking about. And then you can put that in the description. You can put that in a comment. I can literally put a comment here right now that says we're an hour 24. So I can put 1:10:00 AppSumo discussion, and just assume that we've been talking about it for 15 minutes. And I think when people go to watch this in a few hours, that'll be in the comments and it'll be clickable.
Yeah, now that's beautiful.
Yeah, so
that's the thing, isn't it? As we're creating more and more digital content, we need to make it easier for people to jump to just the small bits of it that are relevant to them.
25 cents a minute for an automated transcription. $1.25 for a person transcription, for English captions, subtitles, or just transcription. And then $3 to $7 per minute if you want foreign subtitles. And $20 per host for automatic live captions on Zoom. That's actually not bad.
It's a great deal. I mean, it's computer generated.
Absolutely.
The whole business is based on, so even the human transcriptions, the computer transcribes it first, and then a human is just listening to it or watching it and correcting the computer's transcription. And even then, it's only 99%. You can't get 100%. But we use it daily, and it's wonderful. We even now, when I have all of my team are remote. We don't have an office. We never have. We never will. And we have a big Zoom call every Monday morning to talk about what we're doing for the week. We've started now even transcribing that Zoom call, and then we use some project management software called Basecamp, and we will post the video and the transcription into Basecamp. So for exactly the same thing, that someone, they get to Thursday and they're like, right, what was it I was supposed to do? And they can go back to the video, and rather than pestering me with the question of what did you want me to do again, because that just annoys me, they can go and search the transcription and they can see the exact moment that we were having that discussion. This is what I mean about tools. There's so many cool tools out there.
There really are.
You are limited by cash flow. You really are limited by imagination and cash flow. That's all that limits you.
And just think, if you're like me, you'll be like, oh man, I just got some new clients. What other tools can I get? It's not all right. Let's put more in savings for when I retire, or let's go on another vacation this year. Like, let's see what other tools I can buy. Like sometimes there's this like weird FOMO, fear of missing out, with just tools, man. Some people just get like tool overload, and I get it. There's a lot out there. So we've been doing this, like, holy cow, we've been doing this for almost an hour and a half. So here's what I want to do, Paul. I want to kind of recap what people get if they sign up for MSP Marketing Edge with you real quick. So I see they get, I'm not going to read them your marketing fluff piece, okay? I'm going to say educational guides. So that's what, a couple page PDF every month?
Well, can I summarize it into 4 parts? And it's probably the fastest way to do it, because there's so much in there that as a business, we've had to get good at summarizing it. So it's $129 a month.
Yep.
As you say, it's one MSP only per area, and there's 4 parts to the program. So you've got stuff you get monthly, stuff you get weekly, you've got tools, and then you've got support. So the monthly stuff, we just give you so much stuff, and you can brand it up and put it on your website or do anything with it within your area. So there's an educational guide, so you just put that onto your website. You could print them off if you wanted to. There's a video which just you can embed into your website. There's we give you a bunch of emails, so you've got versions for prospects and versions for clients. There's a month's worth of social media content, which again you can just schedule across all your channels. There's a press release to send out to your local media. There's a newsletter which you can just print and post off to your prospects. And there's something called a campaign in a box. Now this is like a mini marketing campaign with a number of different touch points, and it's the campaign in the box that helps to turn leads and prospects into clients. So that's everything that we do that every month, but then every Thursday we send out more stuff. And the 2 things that we send out are another week's worth of social media content. So the month stuff is kind of like a month in advance, but we deliver on the 10th of the previous month. So on the 10th of September, we deliver October's content. So you can see that the social media content is a little bit out of date. So the weekly social media content is fresh. In fact, as I speak right now, my team are building the social media content for us to deliver tomorrow. The other thing we deliver on a weekly basis is a tech tips video. So we have a US presenter who goes into your website and he teaches technology to your prospects. So that's a positioning tool. So you've got monthly stuff, weekly stuff, then you've got tools, and there are 3 primary tools. The first one I mentioned earlier on is that book, Email Hijack. So you put your name on the front as if you've written the book. It positions you as an author. You can use it as a business card, and you can use it for data capture. We have a second tool which is based around the website Have I Been Pwned? So it's a plugin that goes into WordPress websites. It means that when someone's on your website, they can check to see whether or not their email address has been breached. And the third tool is another one of those campaigns in a box, but it's a really comprehensive one. It's a 30-day, I think we've got something like 28 touch points, 30-day coronavirus one. So you remember I was mentioning earlier all the unhappy clients who have made the decision to leave their MSP, but they just haven't taken action yet. That's what this campaign is aimed at. And we're telling everyone to roll that out in the fall, because I think it's the fall when things are really going to start to change. And then the final part is support. So a big part of this is I don't want to just give this stuff to my clients and abandon them to it and say, see ya, you're on your own. We know that when people are, the secret sauce of any marketing is implementing, is getting things done. So we have 3 support options. We have a second Facebook group. I mentioned earlier my big Facebook group, which has nearly 1,000 people in. We have a second Facebook group, which only has 200 non-competing MSPs in. You can't even find it on Facebook because it's set up as a secret one. Mm-hmm. And I'm in that every day. And that's where our clients initially go to say, how would I do this? Or what's the best way to do this? So we should share best practice and problem solving there. We then have a knowledge center, which again is only open to our clients. So we've got about 150 videos and articles, and they're all on the implementation of marketing. So for example, LinkedIn, you'd go in and you search for LinkedIn, and there's 15, 20 different articles or videos about how to implement specific things of LinkedIn. And each of those is right down to a very, very specific. We literally talk you through every single aspect of it. And then the final thing, now this has got a long title, but this is almost one of the most valuable parts of the package. It's called the Zero Excuses GTD Support Line, where GTD stands for Get Things Done. So Zero Excuses GTD Support Line. And what that does is if you're stuck, and again, if you're one of our members and you're stuck on a piece of marketing, you book a direct one-on-one Zoom call with a member of my team. So that's why we call it Zero Excuses. If you've got to implement stuff and you get stuck, you can't use that as an excuse. You book a call with my team, they talk you through it, you get it done, it's sorted. And this is how we help our clients to physically get stuff done, even though we're not a done-for-you agency. We're sort of talking them through it.
That is amazing. I like that,
Thank
man.
you.
All right, Paul, I want to thank you for being here with me today. This has been fun. I would love for you to come back sometime and we can just chat more about marketing, philosophy, and maybe we could even talk about, what are some basics that every MSP should do? What's the foundation of marketing that every MSP should do that they can do themselves? You know what I mean? With minimal work. I mean, obviously, signing up for something like what you offer would be kind of a next step. That way it's still minimal work. But fixing a website, once it's done kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'd love to do that, and thank you for having me on the show. It's been great. I can't believe how long we've actually been talking. Feels like we've been talking about 20 minutes.
It really does. They always
Yeah,
say time flies when you're having fun. So
indeed.
I really enjoyed this, and seriously, anytime you want to come back, Paul, just let me know.
It's a pleasure. Thank you,
All right.
Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody. You all take care. Take care, Paul.
Bye.